Everyone, hello and welcome into the beginning of the 2021 NFL regular season and our first Pick'em video of the year. Every Wednesday from here on out, I will be posting a video where I make my selections on who I think is going to win each game for each weekend's slate of games until the conclusion of the regular season. And this is the second straight year that I am making this series. Last year was pretty successful, if I don't say so myself, in terms of me picking the winners. Not so successful in terms of viewership. Hopefully that will go up this year, and we all have a good time talking about who we think is going to win around the NFL. So if you're new here, I have reintroduced the whiteboard behind me. Some of you have made comments in the past that you actually like this format, having this nice little visual where you can follow along and things make sense. So you can keep track of my selections as we make them in this video, and you can let me know in the comments below, what do you think of my selections? What are your surprise selections, upset picks? What teams do you think are going to walk away 1-0 and 0-1 respectively this weekend, and how are things going to shape up after the first week of NFL action, which, thank God, it's finally here, right? Let's go. Let's get this underway. So a couple disclaimers before we start making picks. Number one, this is the beginning of the season, so we really don't know who is who quite just yet. The preseason has given us some indicators about which teams might be trending in which direction, whether that's up or down. I think we feel pretty comfortable about what teams are currently at the top and the bottom, like the Chiefs, Packers, Bills. We feel like those guys are Super Bowl contenders. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Texans, the Lions, teams that we don't feel so good about this year that are probably going to end up in the basement with a really high overall draft pick for 2022. Also, another disclaimer, I'm just picking straight up head to head. This isn't against the points. I don't want to worry about spread and keeping track of all of that. So this is just head to head. I'm not looking to cover any points or anything like that. So just keep those things in mind. Having said all of that, let's start making selections. On the whiteboard behind me, I will be posting team pennants. I'm going to not show you which team I'm using because I don't want to spoil any picks. And I will put their team pennant under their team name to indicate that I have selected them to be the winner. And then next week, we will do a recap to see how I did in terms of record. We'll keep track of that record for the entire year. I have done enough talking. Let's get to the selections. We open up tomorrow night, kicking things off officially with a Thursday night football game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dallas Cowboys, defending Super Bowl champions, against a team that had a disappointing season last year due to the injury of Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has returned. I'm excited about CeeDee Lamb this year, if I could just say that quickly about the Dallas Cowboys. But for this matchup, I'm going to have to go with the Super Bowl defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, it may not be fair to the Cowboys to open up this difficult of a schedule, right out of the gate. But when you bring back your entire roster that just won you a Super Bowl, it makes it really hard to pick against you. And, I've picked against Tom Brady in the past, and I've learned my lesson. I won't be doing that anytime soon. Moving on, we have the Jaguars and the Texans. This is a difficult game to pick because both of these teams should be bad this year. I don't have any faith in Urban Meyer figuring out, the NFL coaching level. I don't think that he's quite prepared for what lies ahead. Things in the preseason that happened kind of indicate that, drafting Travis Etienne where they did, the whole Tim Tebow thing. It's weird, it's bizarre. And then on top of that, you have a rookie quarterback with a pretty pedestrian surrounding cast, if I could say that. And the defense is shades of what it used to be, 3 or 4 years ago. As far as the Texans goes, this is everybody's favorite selection to be the worst team in the league. I've already heard talks of 0-17 because remember, extra game this year. So, it all depends on if anybody punctures Tyrod Taylor's lungs right before a game starts. So we'll have to wait and see. Deshaun Watson is listed on the depth chart, but he is buried on the depth chart, and that whole situation has caused problems on top of already existing problems, which is that Bill O'Brien has left this roster in utter disregard. So it's not a good situation for Houston, but I'm going to go with an upset. Is this an upset? I don't know. I'm going with the Houston Texans, mostly for the lulls. Because if you're the Jaguars and you lose to the Texans right out of the gate, number one, that's hilarious. And number two, it suddenly puts you in the running to be one of the worst teams in the league and not Houston because they have, they have a game on you now. So that's my logic for that matchup. Next, we have the Chargers and the Washington football team, two teams I think that are probably likely destined for the playoffs. Really like what the Chargers are doing this year. If you watched my NFL predictions video the other day, you know that this is my selection to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I also think the football team can make the playoffs as a wild card. For this matchup, I'm just going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers to win this game. Oops, they're over here. I like what the Chargers are doing way more. Derwin James is back. Austin Eckler is going to have a great season, so I'm going to go with them right out of the gate as hot. Next, we have the Seahawks and the Colts. This one's pretty easy for me. I don't really like what the direction of the Colts is right now. I think that they've had a tumultuous preseason. There's been a lot of mispractice by key guys. It's just trying to figure out everything that's going on. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks, the team that I've really heard the least about this offseason. And, usually no news is good news. Next, we have the Jets and the Panthers, the Sam Darnold revenge game. We're going to find out what he's truly made of. And now he has a way better supporting cast in Carolina than he ever did in New York. So Sam Darnold will be throwing and handing off to Christian McCaffrey. He's got Terrace Marshall, who has had a great preseason. Don't forget about Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. I think that this is going to be a win for the Carolina Panthers, so I'm going to go with them as Zach Wilson gets his feet wet. And it'll be interesting to see who emerges from the Jets in terms of key offensive players, especially in the backfield, whether it's going to be Tevin Coleman, who is listed as a starter, or Michael Carter, or even Ty Johnson, who I've heard a lot of good things about. Next, we have our game for our community here, the Minnesota Vikings versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And while I have been a contrarian and pretty busy sounding the alarm about the Minnesota Vikings for this year, I'm going to say that we start off the season with a win. I'm going to pick the Minnesota Vikings to win their home road opener against the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think Zach Taylor is a good head coach. I think the Bengals are in the middle of the rebuild that is kind of stuck in neutral, so we'll see how things go this year. The Bengals have made improvements. I think that they will be a tough opponent, but I think the Vikings are just that much better. So I'm going to go with them starting 1-0 for the season. Next, we have the Cardinals and the Titans. This was a struggle pick for me. I went back and forth between both teams. There's sound reason to pick either one, but I'm going to go with the Titans. I'm going to go with the Titans over the Cardinals for no other reason than I think that Mike Vrabel might have one up on Cliff Kingsbury for this matchup. Next, we have the 49ers and the Detroit Lions. This one's pretty easy. I'm going to go with the 49ers. As much as I'm rooting for Dan Campbell and how hilarious it would be for them to start 1-0, I think that roster is just too bad to realistically stay competitive, especially with a team as talented as the 49ers. Next, we have the Washington football team and we have the Steelers and the Bills. I'm reading my camera, in its reverse, so ignore that. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills, both teams that realistically should see the playoffs. Josh Allen is a preseason MVP favorite. The connection with him and Stephon Diggs, I think, is just getting started. They really need to figure out the running back situation. Either Zach Moss or Devin Singletary need to emerge. On the other side, the Steelers have a running back now in Najee Harris, who replaces James Conner. So I think we should expect to see a heavy dose of him while Big Ben tries to get the passing game figured out. That sort of fell off the map at the end of last year. I don't know the status of Chase Claypool and his health and availability regarding week 1, but either way, I think that this should be an interesting game. It'll be a matter of, can the Steelers play defense, keep the Bills out of the end zone, and then if they can't, keep up with them in terms of offensive production. I'm going to say they don't. I'm going to pick the Bills for this one over the Steelers for week 1. Next, we have the Falcons and the Eagles. I'm going to go with experience here. I'm going to go with the experience of Matt Ryan at quarterback, and I'm going to pick the Falcons. As much as I like the Eagles this year, I like Jalen Hurts, I like Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders. I don't know. I just feel like Matt Ryan leading an offense that features Calvin Ridley, who has been groomed to be the wide receiver 1 in the post-Julio Jones era, I think is the more favorable connection as far as this game goes. The defense is going to be really, really suspect outside of Grady Jarrett, but I'm going to go with the Falcons. It's just a gut call for this one. Next, we have the Chiefs and the Browns. Sorry, Browns fans. I really like you this year. I think you're going places, but I can't pick against the Chiefs for week 1. That team looks motivated to get back to the playoffs and the Super Bowl. For the next game, we have the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston throwing to who is going to be interesting because they don't have Michael Thomas until week 8, I think at least. He'll be out that long. Alvin Kamara, solid player, but I think Aaron Rodgers has something to prove this year. And if not, he's playing for next year so that he can get to another team and stick it to the Packers. I'm going to go with the Packers winning this one over the Saints. Next, we have Broncos and Giants. I'm going to go with Teddy Bridgewater. I have no real logic or reasoning for this one. Just I feel like the Broncos are the better team on paper. I'm not all in on Daniel Jones. I never was. Saquon Barkley, early prognosis is that he might be on somewhat of a pitch count. They might really ease him back into, full speed, live action NFL games. So we'll see how that goes. Outside of that, I don't know what the Giants can really do to impose their will on a Denver Broncos team that I think is going to be better this year. And with the offensive cast that the Broncos have, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton's back. They draft Javonte Williams, who I think eventually will overtake Melvin Gordon as a starting running back for this team. It's hard to pick up against the Broncos in this matchup. Next, we have Miami Dolphins, the New England Patriots. Two former Alabama quarterbacks will headline this one. Mac Jones for the Patriots will be the starter. Tua Tagovailoa, who has looked good in the preseason, and there is some buzz about him. Will Fuller is, of course, suspended for week 1. I think that's the only week he's suspended, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Really like Myles Gaskin, Mike Gesicki, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker. I'm just basically name-dropping at this point. On the other side, I'm looking at for good seasons from Damian Harris. Now that Cam Newton is out, he'll be able to take all of the red zone touchdowns and goal line touchdowns in terms of the running game. So looking out for that. And but for this one, I'm going to go with Brian Flores defeating his old mentor, Bill Belichick. I'm going to take the Dolphins to open up 1-0 because I think their defense is much better than the Patriots' defense is right now, currently. And I think that they will give problems for Mac Jones going into the opening game of the season. Next, we have the Rams and the Chicago Bears. This one's pretty easy for me. I'm going to pick against the Chicago Bears until they decide that Andy Dalton is not the starter. So, Matt Nagy, you are doing this to yourself. And to conclude things, we have the Monday night matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the I'm going to do that a couple times. I'm still not used to Las Vegas for some reason. So, the Las Vegas Raiders and the Baltimore Ravens. I just wish the Ravens were healthier. I wish Rashad Bateman was available. I wish that J.K. Dobbins didn't go down with an injury, although it helps me because I did get Gus Edwards in a really late round in a fantasy draft last night. So I guess I get the benefit of the situation. But yeah, I just wish the Ravens were healthier on offense. I would like to see them at their full potential. Sneaky star player of the night could be Sammy Watkins for the Baltimore Ravens. I just call that a gut feeling. He's had explosive week 1s before, if you remember, a couple years ago with the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Raiders, I don't know what the Raiders are doing. I legitimately don't. I would love to do a whole series on just about what the fuck John Gruden, Mike Mayock, and the Raiders organization think a football team is supposed to be, because the offensive line is just completely different. They didn't have to rebuild it, but they did it anyway. John Brown asked for his release. They give it to him. Apparently he was unhappy with his role in the offense. Henry Ruggs isn't really looking like the first round pedigree so far. He's had flashes of brilliance, but for, the 12th overall selection, I expect a little bit more. I think CeeDee Lamb was always the better wide receiver from that draft class, and I think he's going to show it this year. I don't know. Josh Jacobs, they bring in Kenyon Drake. I don't get what the Raiders are doing. I just hope Darren Waller has a fantastic season. I'm going to go with the Ravens to beat the Raiders on Monday night. Those are my selections for week 1 of the NFL season. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Where is my analysis off? Where do you happen to agree with my analysis? And that's as deep as we're going to go for this video. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.